Heroes of Adventure is Nigh are courageous, mighty, and cuddly? Well, now they can be. Mortimer, Dabarella, Grinderbin, and Sigmar Iceblood are available in plushie form, each with their own adventuring accessory. Display them, hug them, or have them perform in your very own Adventure is Nigh fan fiction. We don't need to talk to every NPC. Yeah, instead, let's make a quick and decisive plan. Get your Adventure is Nigh plushie now at sharkrobot.com or click on the link in the description. And for a limited time, you can buy all 4 at a reduced cost. I'll try the path the Dungeon Master intended me to. Oh blimey, this time I won't use deception.
Yet. Whoa.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rewind, episode number 21 for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. My name is Marty Sleva, and I'm joined by Darren Mooney, Jack Packard, and producer Eric. We got a wonderful little show for you guys tonight. We're going to be chatting about Thunderbolts, Asterix, the 36th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We all saw it. We'll be chatting about that. We'll also be chatting a little bit about this Kung Fury 2 movie, which had a quote unquote leak that, listen, Jack is calling shenanigans on, and Jack has some thoughts about shenanigan based leaks.
A Ryan Reynolds, if you will.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when we get to that.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds had some scruples.
Some scruples. And then kind of want to just go over, I made a big list of kind of the big movies coming out this summer. Just sort of run through them week by week, temperature check, what we're excited for, what we think is going to do well, what we think is not going to do well. And then, of course, what we've been watching. We've been watching stuff. Sometimes we watch stuff. You can't stop us.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I think the one thing that I would like to start about, kind of as a preamble into Thunderbolts, is this idea. So there are 2 types of movie theaters that I go to here in Milwaukee. One is my art house cinema, and one is the big Cineplex. Right, the art house cinema, you go. They play 2, maybe 3 trailers, and then they have like a 2-minute little, hey, we are historically preserving this art house cinema. If you want to, give us some money, give us some money. Like, we are talking 10, maybe 12 minutes of preamble before the movie starts.
Does the preamble start when the ticket
at the start time on the ticket? Yeah,
at the start time on the ticket, right. Yesterday, I set a stopwatch because I went to the Cineplex, the big chain movie theaters. 32 minutes. The movie started 32 minutes after the start time on the ticket. Unacceptable.
There was a lawsuit in China, right? There was a lawsuit in China where now tickets in China have to have the time the movie actually starts on them. They have the recommended seating time and the time that the movie actually starts because of a lawsuit, which I kind of love. It feels like it's I don't know that it would work in the States. I think that would be seen as like impugning on free enterprise. But this Supreme Court may be a little pro-business, possibly, Darren says, not to put my political analyst hat on. But like there was in China a lawsuit that basically led to, well, we're putting the start time on the tickets of the movie.
My thing is, I'm fine for as many trailers as you want to air. Just put them before the time on the ticket. Put an hour of trailers beforehand. And I might get there an hour beforehand. Just be like, I'll watch movies. But like, I want to know when I'm going to get out of the movie. Like, I want to know if the movie is 2 hours long and it starts at 6 o'clock. I want to know that I'm going to be done by 8, not by 8:45, because time is weird.
Do you guys not? Okay, well, look, in Ireland, we do put the start time is the time the credit or the trailer start, generally speaking. Yeah. And we do also have the end time, but the end time is the trailer time plus. You guys don't have an end time.
We don't have end times on tickets.
In America, the end time is constantly tomorrow. We just constantly have this feeling of the end is tomorrow. This is our final day.
And by the way, that would solve a ton of my problems. And if it said, "Hey, you will be out at this time," I don't know if I would.
You have to reverse engineer it. Yeah, you have to reverse. Like you have to do a little bit of work to figure out when the movie starts. Sure. Just basic maths and a bit of Google, but you can figure it out. I mean, I will say, similar to Marty, I do not like advertisements in cinemas. I hate when they do TV ads in cinemas. That just really bugs me. I don't like being forced to watch TV ads. As many trailers as you want. the thing I have discovered in Ireland, and maybe this is just a small cinema thing, but basically, if you go to a cinema and you go to the last screening at the cinema that is staffed by teenagers who are, not getting paid by the hour, but by the shift, I guarantee you the latest screenings will always, the trailers will start rolling 10 minutes before the showtime, so that when the showtime hits, the logos of the company start playing. I do want to shout out, I don't know if I should name them because they might get fired, but one of my local Cineplexes does that and I love them so much.
They play the movie at 1.5 speed as well, so you just get on with your day. Man, they're talking very fast in Thunderbolts.
No, and that's I had a 6:40 Thunderbolts screening last night. 6:40, we get 10 minutes of advertising, no trailers, just the first 10 solid minutes, nothing but ads, and then a little ad for buying ad space in the theater. Then
Which
we
they
get
obviously don't need after 10 minutes of ads.
Right?
It boggles my mind when the theater has an ad for the theater. I'm complaining about this videos. I am here. Don't advertise me. Advertise other people.
Right.
I am not the problem.
10 to 12 minutes of trailers and then more ads and then ads for the theaters brought to you by a movie. It was insanity. All of this before the movie started, and my bunch of crunch was almost empty. I'd like to save a little bit of it for the title sequence.
You didn't have a bunch of crunch left, no. I do also, to Marty's point, I am also mildly irritated by the propaganda ads that are just because I get it putting them on TV or whatever, but it's I don't need Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio to sell me on the magic of the cinema. I'm already at the cinema.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I don't get it.
Yeah. It is so. Yeah, that was a little bit of me just being an old man, but also I will the art house cinema. My art house cinema is farther away, and they don't have the big comfy loungers. I will choose that cinema because I know it has a shorter preamble every single goddamn time. Yeah. They were doing a film festival this week, so I couldn't watch Thunderbolts there. Ew, the Milwaukee International Film Festival. Ew.
I mean, Jesus, these big, gigantic blockbusters are just getting squeezed out in the market by these mean, old international films. Will nobody stop and think of, the Walt Disney Corporation I'm seeing here?
Right.
Small little distributors trying to get a leg up.
I think we can all agree, Myth, Milwaukee International Film Festival, the true enemy of the people.
Yeah, true enemy of the people.
Shout out to Myth 2008, where I got to meet Willem Dafoe, though, so never mind.
Hey.
Myth is the friend of me.
Was he Willem Befriend?
He was absolutely Willem Dafoe, not Willem Dafoe. He was Willem Delightful.
Oh, beautiful.
Jack.
Yeah.
After you got through all those credits, I'm imagining you got to see a movie called The Thunderbolts.
I did get to see a movie called
As
The
I mentioned,
Thunderbolts.
the 36th movie in the MCU, directed by Jack Schreier. He has your name.
Yeah.
Well, he has your first name. He doesn't have the rest of your name.
There we go.
Jack Schreier is best known for a couple of smaller movies, Robot and Frank and Paper Towns, as well as he was the showrunner on Beef. Yeah, the Netflix series Beef.
Beautiful
movie. Yeah.
I don't know if he was the showrunner or just the head director. I think
he might have been the head director. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a lie. That was one of the 3 lies throughout the podcast. And if you find them all, Jack sends you a prize.
It's true.
Yeah. We make it less fun when we call out the lies, though, because everyone. Well, that was a gimme lie.
Yeah.
That was a gimme lie.
That was a demonstration. Yeah, that was now you do it at home, listeners.
The second lie, Willem Dafoe punched me right in the face.
The
Jack,
third lie is that I will send you a prize.
Jack, what did you think of Thunderbolts?
On my patent pending scale of bunch of crunch to nuncha crunch, I give this a sumpcha crunch.
Sumpcha crunch.
And I think that is the general perception is overall, I think the movie was fine. I think it was better than okay. Not phenomenal and not terrible. I am frankly shocked that, and maybe this is I'm beaten down and just shocked at the little bit of competency, but they actually made the movie about something. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Thieves. Who would have known?
has ideas and characters and plot and story and themes. It's all the standard ingredients of a movie. It's incredible.
But you know,
Darren,
like, no offense to your Ant-Man's Quantum Manias or anything like that, but sometimes we do get these movies that don't necessarily have allegories to them, and this one did. And so I was a little uncomfortable in my big seat going, wait, is this a real movie?
It's about something?
Darren, you wrote about the movie in a column the other week. What did you think?
I liked it a lot. Again, it feels like a backhanded compliment to say this is the best of the live-action major studio superhero movies since Guardians of the Galaxy, but it turns out there's been like 12 or 15 of them, so it doesn't feel quite as backhanded. No, I had a really, really good time with this. I went in with expectations, as you mentioned, kind of hedged. I think it has been a very rough couple of years for the superhero genre. I think like one of the magic tricks that Thunderbolts does is it is actually kind of about the idea of superhero fatigue. It is, I believe, the end of Marvel Phase 5, heading into Phase 6. But like so much of the starting point of this movie is Julia Louis-Dreyfus sitting before Congress, admitting to the Disney shareholders that we do not have any reliable heroes, then cramming most of Phase 4 and Phase 5 of the MCU into a giant incinerator. And the rest of the movie kind of flows from that. Like, it is a fascinating movie that kind of like works because it grapples with the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not the world-conquering force that it was even 5 years ago. It has the smart thing of, and this is just a smart thing in general because it's nice to root for the underdog, but it manages to position not only its characters and its team, but also its very existence as an underdog narrative story, where it's like, this is the movie that's releasing this year in front of like Fantastic Four, which is inexplicably being sold as like the fate of the Marvel Cinematic Universe depends on this franchise that we've tried 3 times before and has never worked in film, but this time it's gonna work, baby. Followed was it preceded by a couple of weeks by Superman, which is another example of this is an iconic character you recognize, but hasn't worked on screen since 1981. And it's like, why are you betting the house on this? Whereas Thunderbolts is like, actually, it's not really working. We don't know what we're doing. We're having a crisis of faith. And to Jack's point, manages to very eloquently tie in that starting premise of the brand is in trouble, the franchise is in trouble, the franchise is lacking direction and purpose and identity, into the idea of, well, what if that is a character arc through the movie? What if our characters are similarly lacking direction, purpose, and agency? And what if their story becomes the meta-narrative of the movie, and it also becomes the meta-narrative of the genre? Because like this is a movie that is, as you say, about many things. I think it's not just about one thing. It is about like depression on the one hand, it is about this idea of like millennial angst on the other, it is about this question of like, if you're interested in like the state of superhero studios, it is about the idea of superhero fatigue. It is, I think, more broadly about the idea of like what the superhero represents in the Trump era. Like we won't get into spoilers, but like there was a Disney dropped like a huge spoiler 3 days after the movie opened, which kind of recontextualizes the movie in terms of, well, this is part of a larger franchise, and that franchise meant something very different in the Obama era than it does now. And I think that like that is part of the conversation what this movie's doing as well. I had a really good time with it. I do think, to Jack's point, it is not like, it's not Sinners. It is not like a masterpiece of blockbuster cinema. Correct. It suffers a bit from the need to be perpetually funny, which is a very strange choice to make in a movie about depression. I don't know if I needed jokes about like big gulps filled with pee or like bottle service in a limo or whatever. I felt like the movie kind of occasionally lost track of itself. I feel like the middle act of the movie is kind of messy as well. It has a very strong start and a very strong end. But the second act of the movie is, how do we get these two to fit together? And it isn't always the most kind of elegant approach. I'm doing a lot of hand work. This is why you should watch the podcast and video. Yes. I'm doing a lot of hand stuff. Yeah. But
it's always such a shame. I don't hear much about the Hawkeye Disney Plus series, which honestly was one of my favorite of the series. I thought it had a really great tone, an incredible amount of fun, and it's something that Florence Poe, am I saying that correct?
Pew? I like pew 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 pew
pew pew. That like Florence
Pugh Darren on Last Jedi.
Yeah, pew pew. It's something that she is incredibly funny in. You know, like great dry deadpan delivery. And so because they are balancing this whole like, no, she's sad, she can't be funny. but also she's doing a 1980s comic Russian accent. So,
It is so funny that like Scarlett Johansson was, I will decide based on not movie by movie, but line by line whether I'm doing the accent. And Pugh is like, no, I am a serious actor, comedy 80s Russian accent all the way.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that works in the movie is like she's magnetic. And she's in almost every scene, and she's great. Like she is like probably one of my favorite leads of the MCU maybe ever. Just like a genuinely magnetic presence, both in terms of the dramatic scenes where she's talking to her dad, played by David Harbour, and talking about how like she feels purposeless in life and she feels like she's a boat without a rudder. During, I think the funny scenes did work for me. Tonally, they might have felt a little out of place, but I think in a bubble, I felt like the humor did work. And then I thought the action scenes were generally well choreographed and just legible, which is again a low mark to air for action movies in 2025. But I knew what was going on, and I was like, oh, I understand what this room looks like at the very least.
But also all the action sequences have like a game to them, which is like fun. They're not just generic superhero people like CGI people punching each other. Every one of the action scenes in this movie has like a set of rules to it, where like, for example, again, this is be a very light spoiler. The first action sequence is you've got 4 people in a room, each one of which is assigned to kill one specific other person and doesn't care about the other 2. And so you have the interactions of those 2, which allows for like really clever camera movement. And as you say, it makes the action clearly legible. There's a moment where we follow a knife from one end of the fight to the other, which is just like, again, I'm not saying this is virtuoso cinema. I'm not comparing it to Ryan Coogler, like transcending space and time and Sinners, but it is legible in a way that, like, the action in these movies in general, I'm not specifically talking about the MCU, I'm talking about like modern blockbusters in general, isn't always. And like you have so many of that, like there's a confrontation in the third act, which is shot as a single long take, which is dazzlingly impressive because the rule of that is that it doesn't matter. There are no stakes. There is no chance of the characters accomplishing what they are trying to do. You are just watching them run up against a brick wall, basically. But it is a fun way of navigating an action sequence because the action sequences in these movies don't work this way. I think, like, to Marty's point, like I think the action is very good here.
You actually remember them, whereas I don't remember any of the action scenes in Captain America 4. I remember the bad cherry blossom.
Don't you remember Red Hulk?
I remember a Red Hulk. I don't remember what he did. I mean, he probably punched.
I think he passed several executive orders. Like I think he was one of the most like proactive White Houses, I believe.
Went to sign a document. He said, "What is this?" And it was like, "How did this guy get elected?" Oh my god!
He put on little Red Hulk spectacles as he was reading them.
Yeah, this does reek. Our talking about it reeks a little bit of damnation by faint praise, but it's not faint praise. It's almost shock for me, at least. It is shock that this was allowed within a system that we know can be very constraining towards artistic expression, towards big broad themes. Like depression, which is like, that's not something that you want, or a Disney executive doesn't want mixing with their fun punching and flipping movie. But it was handled, and again, I hate to sound surprised here, it was handled really well.
One of the screenings I was at, there was a mother with like an 8-year-old kid, and after we were leaving, the mother having to explain to the child what the movie, why was Yelena sad, and like having to explain to her 8-year-old daughter. And I can understand from Disney's point of view why maybe that's not what you want in terms of your blockbuster, but it is so interesting. And I think to your point about like not getting this with movies, I honestly, to give the MCU credit, like there was a time when it seemed like it was capable of this, if not consistently, at least often enough to make it worthwhile. And I know I'm going to invoke this person and it's going to be controversial, but like Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok, forget about Love and Thunder, but that is a Waititi movie that works. Or Ryan Coogler's Black Panther is a better example, where that is a movie that hits all of the beats of this kind of movie, but is, as you say, about things and has a directorial perspective. And it does really feel like a lot of that has got lost, where like, I like Daniel Destin Cretton, I like Just Mercy. I don't know that Shang-Chi has a perspective. I don't know that Shang-Chi has like something to say about the world. Was it Kate Shortland who did Black Widow? Where like I loved like the Berlin Syndrome, I think it was the kidnapping movie that she did with Teresa Palmer. But I watched Black Widow, and that is a movie that is so at odds with itself, where I can tell you intellectually what it's supposed to be about, which is about men controlling women. But I watch it and I'm like, it looks like it's trying to be some sort of like family road trip movie, and that doesn't work. Like I think Marvel used to be capable of doing this more consistent. Like this is a movie that feels like it could have come out in, say, Phase 3, when they seem to be doing this more consistently.
And it's that pairing. To me, the high watermark is and will always be Iron Man 3, which is like the pairing of thematic allegory and action sequence. When we have someone punching, I'm not overstating, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything. We have anti-heroes punching depression, the concept of the ups and downs of depression, and it works because it's that mixture. Like comic book movies, action movie, or superhero movies, not comic book movies. Superhero movies are supposed to be action movies, and I love action movies. And when we can theme the greater, when we can pair the themes of the action and the allegory together, that's when magic happens. And this sometimes doesn't work, but when it does, it really, really hits hard.
Yeah, especially that final the final kind of set piece in the third act. It reminded me a little bit of how the first Doctor Strange ends, where so many Marvel movies feel like they end with two CGI action figures smashing against each other. And even the good ones sometimes end like that.
Yeah, even
like
Black Panther. Black
Panther has a bit of that at the end. You mentioned, Black Widow. Definitely Captain America 4. I think they were doing that in that ugly looking cherry blossom thing.
You don't think they shot that at the real cherry blossoms?
I don't know why I'm so bad about
Washington,
that.
DC?
That is the one thing in the movie that gets me mad for some reason.
Then Marty's like, I'm all in on was it the leader? Give me more of the Tim Blake Nelson leader. Like
that wasn't big enough.
I did want more of him. Yes.
But yeah, I really liked how the way Doctor Strange has to deal with the Dormammu situation is really neat, and you can't just punch his way out of it. And in this movie, the way they deal with the thing at the end of the third act with Lewis Pullman, who we haven't mentioned, is sort of I would say
I think he's great.
Florence Pugh, who is great, and he's a great character to introduce, and he's kind of plays almost like 3 levels of character, and all 3 of the characters I think work really well. The ultimate villain of the movie is very menacing and cool looking. Like, again, these are all like basic things and it sounds silly, but like the Void is cool looking. Like a silhouette with 2 like pinhole white eyes is cool looking. Also, the whole time I'm thinking, what's Mayor Fisk doing about all this?
Mayor Fisk Spider-Man up to right now.
Imagine his little depression zone he goes in. Hell, everyone forgot about me. Shit sucks.
I feel like Wilson Fisk could be like living his best life inside the depression zone. Like I really do.
Constantly beating his father to death like he did when he was a kid.
I actually quite enjoy it in here.
There's Vanessa.
If only
you
Vanessa
embarrass me in front of Vanessa.
I think I'm gonna be honest. The MCU is one of those things you just can't think about too much. If you start thinking about it too much, the entire enterprise crumbles.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just imagining like Lewis Pullman's head in a car door as like Fisk just keeps trying. It's not working, but he's keeping trying.
Very strong. I don't know what's happening.
I'm still having quite a good time.
I feel like the movie's been out for a couple weeks. I think it's safe to, because I want to talk about some spoiler stuff in the end, some character reveal stuff, and then specifically how the sort of post-credit scene, which was decidedly not shot by Jake Schreier, ties into the future of the MCU. So yeah, the thing Darren mentioned, literally opening weekend, I think by Sunday the movie came out, they started rebranding. Like literally there were like internet videos of Sebastian Stan going to a bus stop and like tearing apart the Thunderbolts poster to reveal
Oscar nominee Sebastian Stan.
Sorry. He played a president. Wasn't a good president, but he played a president. Tearing the Thunder, because it's called Thunderbolts Asterix, and I think a lot of people kind of assume this, tears it apart, and then the title of the movie is The New Avengers, which is what the post-credits scene shows, that Sebastian Stan wanted to create, or I guess under Julia Louis-Dreyfus, wanted to create an Avengers team, went to Sam Wilson and was like, hey, I got a team for you. And Sam Wilson's like, no, I guess he's going to make his own team, or he just was upset he didn't get to choose his roster. And so this is an Avengers team. We'll probably get another Avengers team leading into the next movie. But how did you feel about that, Jack?
To me, that felt a little bit having their cake and wanting to eat it too, because like, the movie ends on a bit of a gag of scheming, conniving Julia Louis-Dreyfus, kind of talking her way out of a bad situation by announcing our group of misfits as the new Avengers, to the confusion of our misfits and the delight of all of the New Yorkers whomst they just saved. Then in one of the post-credit sequence, like, they discover that they are living in Avengers Towers. They have the A logo. They are the Avengers, but they are also complaining that they're not really the Avengers. And so eventually when Disney drags its feet on making the new Avengers movie and none of these people are in it, they'll just go, yep, I guess it's fine. Or if some of them are in it, nothing matters. The post-credit scenes don't matter.
But this one kind of does matter because it was shot on the same sets that they're using to film the new Avengers movie, is the thing. It was shot by the Russo brothers, is the the big thing. Like, literally, apparently added only weeks before the movie screened, which is always a good sign and always a sign of complete confidence and a great sign that they know what they're doing. They have a plan. They've absolutely figured it out. It's all concrete and ironed down.
It's definitely not weird that several of the main characters of the movie, the actors, have said, oh yeah, we don't have a script. I don't know what this movie's about.
I only read like a line or two. Yeah, like Wyatt Russell's like, I've read a line. That's it, yeah.
Movie's coming out less than a year? Not worried at all.
I mean, like, this is the thing where, setting aside any like actual quality of like the material, but like the thing about like James Gunn's management of the DCU so far, having not seen a film yet, we'll get into that discussion later, is that like he at least has we will have a finished script before we begin shooting, and we will make sure on the other end that we shoot efficiently and that we have like time to do VFX. Like, obviously, Superman wrapped, I think, like 8 months, maybe 9 months before Fantastic Four, and they're coming out within weeks of each other. You have already, like, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is being directed by the guy who directed I, Tonya. It's Craig Gillespie. That wrapped its filming this week. That is releasing, I think, around the same time, maybe a little bit later than Avengers Secret Wars in 2026. And that has not wrapped shooting.
Doomsday.
Like, that's Doomsday. Sorry, Doomsday. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Doomsday in 2026. So Doomsday has just started, I think. Doomsday hasn't wrapped yet. But yeah. It's like, it is insane. It is absolutely like
took them a lot of time to set up those chairs, Darren. They could have been shooting a movie, but they had to set up 115 chairs in a line.
And like, there's a real, not to get too spoilery, but like the photos that you're seeing from the set, there's a real, who can we get who's affordable energy to the actors who are appearing in this movie, where like it's like your photos include, like, obviously Robert Downey Jr. is there because he's the big draw. Chris Hemsworth is there because we got to have Thor, and it's like and the guy who played Condor in Falcon is there too, I guess, and Winston Duke from Black Panther. He's the best we can get from Black Panther.
In the first X-Men movie, right? Yeah. Ray Park, you guys like Darth Maul? He's there too. Fuck him, he'll just be Darth Maul. It doesn't matter.
This is our Avengers team. It's quite literally reaching into the barrel and rolling up your sleeve and going, okay, Lupita Nyong'o said no, but we do have Winston Duke. And I love Winston Duke.
Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion, so
yeah.
If this is just that on steroids, then I'm sure
this is what you get, internet. This is what you get because you all loved Wolverine versus Deadpool. Now it's going to be this kind of slop for the rest of the decade. Come on.
We touched on it earlier, but I am curious, Darren, if you have any thoughts on what happened with Taskmaster in the movie. So she is one of the characters. She was on a lot of the marketing leading into it as one of the members of the Thunderbolts, and she is in that opening sequence or the early action sequence we talk about, where every character is trying to kill another character. But still in the spoiler zone, she just gets shot in the head.
After a single line. She has one single line. And Olga Kurylenko, the actor, appears like clearly green screened into the mask on the suit, and then gets domed in the head and then it comes up maybe twice afterwards, and nobody is at any point upset that like Taskmaster, who Yelena was very closely involved with and related to, was murdered by a person that they are traveling with and aligned with. It is a very, very strange choice. This is that second act thing I'm talking about. That's like one of the prime examples of it where
I actually liked that as a story beat, though, because I think one of the issues that you can run into in a movie like this is just kind of knowing what's going to happen. Like, obviously, it's a Marvel comic book movie. The people who are doing heroics will win in the end. Spoiler alert. That is to be expected. But to me, that set up, knowing nothing about behind the scenes, whatnot, all that did to me was like, oh, maybe one of them could die. Okay, great. I'm okay with this. That set up a reasonable amount of plausible deniability where I could say, oh, maybe the stakes do matter. Maybe this does mean something.
So the writer of one of the writers on the movie,
Eric Pearson, I believe, Eric
Pearson, in an interview said he was surprised when he saw the finished movie because in his version of the script, Taskmaster survives that, and there's a whole recurring bit where, so when she was sent down there, she was sent to kill Wyatt Russell's character, John Walker, U.S. agent. But her whole thing is she kind of has like memory loss. And so there's a recurring bit that like every 20 minutes in the movie, she forgets that they're all a team and tries to kill him. And they all have to like stop her and be like, we are on a team. You need to stop doing this, which I think would be very funny.
That's hilarious.
That's a good bit.
It is several things to note about this, which I think is fascinating. First of all, is like, even though Disney immediately pulled the emergency cord New Avengers advertising, they're still selling the movie as Taskmaster as part of the team, which I love. They will spoil the post-credit scene, but they're like, just so you're clear, everybody's favorite hero, Taskmaster. And in fact, they've actually like CGI Taskmaster into shots where Taskmaster is not in the finished movie as well. So I
the
like
audience asking, where's Taskmaster?
Yeah, I like the meta gag of them committing to it. To Jack's point, I don't know that I buy that because none of the other characters die, and like the central point of the movie is that all of these characters are like, they can be healed and are redeemable. Like like the central, which is something I love about the movie, is the end of the movie, we're kind of in the spoiler zone, doesn't involve like cold-blooded murder of like putting a bullet into somebody's head. It is like, no, it's a hug. It's one of the great things is the advertising for the movie where they're all like battling against each other. The shot in the movie is they're hugging each other, and it's really sweet. And like that kind of jars for me a bit with Taskmaster just getting domed and everybody being like, well, shame about Taskmaster, I guess.
To be fair, Darren, that's the start of the movie. That's where they started, right? They started with like, this is our job. We die sometimes. Fuck it. Bye. And so like, I liked it in that stake. I liked it because we're in the pure spoiler zone. As far as actual shocks, they did walk this one back a little bit. But when the Red Guardian. Thank you. The Crimson Chin.
Alexei.
When the Crimson Chin. When the Red Guardian saves the little girl and has like his wonderful moment of being a hero, only for her to get black dusted. Genuinely delightful. Like one, little children dying, beautiful. But like again, they walked this back a little bit, but like, oh shit, this is different. It has stakes. This feels different than other Marvel movies, and that's what we like. We like it when they feel different.
I do also want to shout out like the credited block on this, which is incredible, where like Olga Kurylenko she's the fourth credited lead on the third title because they split Sebastian Stan and Wyatt Russell. For a single line of dialogue, she is the fourth credited lead. Ghost, who is Hannah John Smith, I think, Hannah John Kamen, is a with and an and. Which is kind of makes me think that originally the roles were meant to be switched, maybe that like it was meant to be like maybe she was meant to be Ghost was meant to be gotten rid of, because like one of the other things you notice structurally about the movie is that like Ghost is the only one of the set with powers. And they have to like reverse Aquaman her, where they have to keep making Ghost useless in order to avoid her solving the movie too quickly. Where it's like, okay, well, we all just walk out of here. It's like, oh no, there's a sound barrier. Oh no, we're getting shot at. Don't worry, I'll take care of this. Oh no, the military jeeps have sound barriers on them too. Can't you just walk through the wall and walk us out of here? It's like, I can't do that because I can only hold my breath for a minute, and it's probably, I don't know. What do you want from me? Yeah. I kind of do wonder if the original plan was for Ghost maybe to be in that kind of position, to be the person who's killed, because then you would have, like, honestly, that line that Yelena has, which is what we all just punch and shoot, is that if you get rid of the one person who can actually do stuff, I do wonder if, like, looking at the credits, that was maybe the original plan, perhaps.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
And then they realized not even in the comic books does anyone like Taskmaster. Like, it's just the worst villain.
But Hannah John Kamen is like really good. She's like really charismatic and really pleasant. It's like, I think the cast this movie is generally good. And with all due respect to Olga Kurylenko, like, I think that like Taskmaster didn't really register that much in like Black Widow. I don't know that she could have registered that much here. But it is jarring because that does feel like, because of the way it's shot, because of the way that it's a single line, a CGI head, a headshot, and the fact that it only fleetingly ever comes up again. I think at one stage Ghost says, "That woman I killed back there, she was your friend." And Yelena says, "Yeah, she had a tough life. She killed people and she died." Tough. And that's really it. That's the only time that it comes up again.
Yeah, but I think it works as kind of a base reality. Like, that works as a starting point of like, this is where I am at. This, like, oh yeah, she clocked in, she clocked out, she got fired. Like, it's that, like, if we're gonna like corporate metaphor this, which Florence Pugh does a lot, which is just like, yeah, like, that's the work day life. My work friend is gone now. I guess I'll find a new work friend. Fine. Yeah.
Also, shout out, this movie's got 2 good Nepo babies. Shout out to Wyatt Russell and Lewis Pullman.
Yep.
The progeny of Kurt Russell and Bill Pullman. Just great. They're both great.
Yeah. Lewis Pullman feels wrong, right? Where it's like he is simultaneously like nerdy guy, like obviously that's his role in Top Gun Maverick, for example, but he's also like handsome leading man guy, where like he is plausible as Superman, and it does feel like, it feels like a very strange market correction to like the 80s, when you had like your handsome movie star leads, but you also had your gangly nerdy guys. And it's like, no, now they've all kind of composited into one person. It's like Griffin Newman is now redundant because we have Lewis Pullman, you know?
Yeah.
I think though that's a Pullman though. Like, a Pullman is weirdly handsome, like kind of classically handsome, kind of nerdy. Is the fact that he's kind of nerdy make him more approachable and thus more handsome?
But somehow, like, he has like beady eyes that should be behind big like Coca-Cola glasses, but also a perfectly defined chin. It's an incredible, like, sorry, not to talk about like phrenology of like movie star Nepo babies' faces, but it is just an incredible monument. I want to shout out before we move on. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, just on that though, like, I think this new casting in general is a bit of a stark contrast to the original casting. Like, you look at the classic Chris's of the first wave, and just, chiseled chins all around, and I don't want this to. I'm going to actually not say what I was about to say. So hold on.
Now they got all these logos in the room.
Yeah,
like Sebastian Stan.
Yeah. Why did you wait until I had like a mouthful of Lucasade?
The way in which I will reword this is, we have a bunch of people who also seem like normal people.
Sure.
And I really like that. Florence Pugh it has the entire first sequence just wearing sweatpants. And it's like, oh, this looks like a human person living in the real life and not like one of the many chiseled Chris's.
Yeah, or not,
or
like
even
how
like the
they
Scarlett Johansson, like
Scarlett Johansson in Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2, where she has to get naked in the back seat for Jon Favreau, who is also the director of the movie.
No.
I mean, he did go on to. Did you know the movie he made after that, which was like Chef, which is like, by the way, my ex-wife is Sofia Vergara, my new girlfriend is Scarlett Johansson, and my best friend is Robert Downey Jr. And Disney's like, if we let you do this, will you do a Star Wars show for us? Like, sure, why not?
My best friend is Small Yoda.
Right, and so you have like the extreme butt shots of your Scarlett Johanssons. You have the chiseledness of all the Chris's combined, and the smarmy good looks of Robert Downey Jr. as kind of our first wave direct adaptations of the comic book characters. But now we are getting real life humans in Marvel movies, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Can I throw something out to the group? And again, this is a safe space. You know, I don't want people to get mad.
Okay.
I like Sebastian Stan as an actor. I think he's very good. I think like he's of the like Marvel stars. Stan is the rare one to use his star to actually do something worth doing, where he has used it to make smaller indie projects. I think he's a really charismatic actor. I think he deserved his Oscar nomination. I think he was very good in A Different Man as well, even more so than in The Apprentice last year. He's doing the work. This is not me criticizing Sebastian Stan. Also, I'm a big comic book fan. I like the character of Bucky in comics. I think Ed Brubaker's Bucky is one of the great comic book characters. That said, in the movies, Bucky has never worked for me, right? Bucky is all because, and part of this is just the structure of the movies, where Bucky is always like a plot device, where like Bucky's always something for like Steve to chase or whatever, or he's a killer robot who could be activated with a phrase word or whatever. He's like, you know, he never really feels like an engaging character in these movies to me as an observer. I think this movie made me care about Bucky Barnes. There is the incredible moment when they're, again, in the second act, the troubled second act, but when they're in the limo being chased by Humvees, which is the opening action sequence from the first MCU film, Iron Man. And the movie's going back to 2008, but wait, it's going back even further because all of a sudden the theme starts playing, the music starts rising, a Humvee explodes, dust blows everywhere, and through the cloud of dust rides a man on a motorbike wearing sunglasses, the wind blowing in his hair. He's James Dean with a grenade launcher. He's Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2. He's Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2. He's all of the twos that you could possibly want. And it is like Sebastian Stan looking like a goddamn movie star. And it is like, the MCU, we've talked about this. One of the things about the MCU is it's intellectual property first. It arguably killed the movie star. None of the actors, even including Robert Downey Jr., have really managed to transform from MCU leads into movie stars, where Downey can't launch his Doolittle franchise, which is probably for the best, to be clear. But like, if you come off of making the two of the biggest movies of all time, and you can't make the talking animal movie, you're not a movie star in the traditional sense, even if they pay you $80 million and give you a trailer encampment in Burbank. But like, I think that the sequence where Bucky rides over the hill, his hair flapping, firing a grenade launcher, blowing up Humvees, is the kind of movie star moment these movies don't generally have. And in that moment, I'm like, my God, what have we missed with Sebastian Stan? Where I always respected him, as I said, as an actor. I think he's a very good performer. I think he's a very generous performer. If you look at things like, say, I, Tonya, or is it Pam and Tommy, for example? I think he's a really good actor. But it's like, I look at that and I'm like, could this man have been like an action lead for 10 years if we had just used him right? Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. They were treating him as a character and not as an actor. They were treating him as the Winter Soldier. He was the little doll in those movies, and he didn't necessarily have a performance. Here, dare I say, he had a layered performance, not just as, a former sad boy, but also now like the dual responsibility of working with the red tape or just taking action. He had nuance to his characters. How weird.
In his opening scene, he quotes Kierkegaard. Like, he quotes the philosopher Kierkegaard about how, I believe it's up to individuals to create their own values. And I'm like, that is not nonsense. Somehow in this film, that is a thematically relevant point the character is laying out as an introductory scene to set up his arc over the course of the movie, where he goes from being kind of like, as you said, the sad boy, modern superhero, wrangled in red tape and politics and congressional hearings like so many superheroes are, not to point any fingers, but we did literally have a movie about what if the Red Hulk was president, and instead going, can't we go back to the good old days when like our action heroes used to just like, they weren't politicians, they weren't presidents, they weren't congressmen. They used to ride motorbikes and let leather jackets flap in the wind and fire grenade launchers at Humvees. Can't we go back to those innocent, better times? And like, I'm like, that is beautiful. That is actually a profound statement in some weird way in the midst of this incredible, silly action sequence.
You get him ripping a shotgun out of a guy's hands, twirling it midair. It's beautiful. No, beautiful scene. Sorry.
I had
Terminator 2. It's pure Terminator 2. Like, sorry, yeah.
I had the same moment of realization, but it was when he was eating that sloppy meatball sub over the classified documents and got sauce all over them, which is the most reckless thing in this movie. Like, what an insane way to eat a sloppy meatball sub over classified documents. What are you doing while you're dishwashing your vibranium arm?
And here's the thing, though, Marty, the movie knows what it's doing because it is one of, like, I think 3 occasions over the course of the movie that is structured to have Sebastian Stan take off a shirt and reveal, like, a wife beater, either white or black underneath, so that you can get 2 tickets to the gun show, baby. Like, it is a movie that knows what it's doing and how it's doing it.
That's how
Nothing
you get that
sloppy
body
about
sloppy
this.
meatball
Yeah,
subs.
there we go. Yeah.
That's all you gotta do.
There's one Disney executive who was like, but how do we get the shirt off?
Oh shit, right at the last minute. We had a Quiznos sponsorship. Fuck, how do we get it in the movie?
I have test audiences loved it. They had one question. They noted that Bucky was wearing a shirt in one scene and a wife beater vest in the other. If you could add some just connecting tissue there, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Continuity is really important to our audience, and some intern, some runner was like, "I got your meatball sub, Mr. Sebastian," and someone goes, "Aha!"
I also do love that, like, to Marty's point about it being a new Avengers movie, it is a movie that is in conversation with the Avengers from 2012. Like, I like how much this movie is, like, even before the reveal of the title. And to Marty's point, it's very telling that, like, Disney put up the new Avengers posters on Monday, and by, I think, Thursday, they had replaced them with Stitch posters. Stitch had, like, chest burst out of the posters, which feels like it defeats the purpose of, like, the, like, rebranding advertising campaign. If I'm Jake Schreier, I'm like, okay, so you gave me the spotlight from Monday to Thursday of my second week. Thanks, Disney. Really appreciate the leg up. But, like, I love that.
Yeah.
Stitch Summer's here. It's going to be massive, depressingly. Like, people are like, Snow White killed the live-action Disney adaptations. Yay, the witch is dead. And I'm like, you don't get to say that until How to Train Your Dragon, which I know is not a Disney production, and Lilo and Stitch are out. Those things are going to be monsters this summer. Yeah, but, like, I love the fact that this is an Avengers movie. Like, the end of it is shot like the Avengers. The end of it is designed to evoke the Avengers, take place in New York in the shadow of, like, Avengers Tower. And I love that it's, like the Avengers was for the Obama era, which was this big, hopeful, optimistic American exceptionalism thing. This is instead like that, but for the Trump era, which is like, can we salvage anything from this situation? Is there anything that we can recover from this? Can we interrogate what it means to be heroes? Because, like, I actually found myself really moved by the sequence where they've split up after their argument and they've gone their separate ways, but they all come back to save civilians. There's no sequence of punching. Throughout the movie, punching is completely useless. I actually love that this is a superhero movie where all of the action sequences, even though they're well shot, are completely pointless. We mentioned the 4 trying to kill each other sequence, which is just distracting them while they're being heated up inside an incinerator. You have the sequence where they break into Avengers Tower, like, attack all the guards, and, like, Defontaine's like, I left the door unlocked. I was expecting you guys. And then you have, like, the really great sequence with Sentry, where they all attack Sentry up in the penthouse. And it is, again, it's very well shot. It's all done in, like, a long take of each of the Avengers in turn just getting themselves handed to themselves by Sentry. But, like, violence is completely useless in this movie, and instead you have this idea of, what if for decades we treated the superhero as, like, a soldier, as this metaphor for, like, the war on terror, 9/11. This is a movie where you have a huge shadow extending over the streets of Manhattan. You have silence falling on the island. You have this shot of One Freedom Plaza being literally swallowed by a black plume of smoke. It is a movie that is very much in conversation with the 9/11 imagery of the superhero genre as a whole, that has been particularly pronounced since, The Dark Knight, but especially since Avengers. But instead of being, what if our superheroes were soldiers who carried guns and murdered people extrajudicially, this is like, what if they were first responders? What if our heroes, like, their primary concern wasn't hurting people or avenging people, if you will, but instead protecting them? That moment where, having all gone their separate ways, like, the void stuff starts happening, and then one at a time, they all just kind of come back and have a little moment where they save somebody. It is, like, really, really, really impressive filmmaking. And I was like, I don't know that I have felt this for a superhero movie in a long time, where I'm like, I am incredibly on board with what is happening, and I love this, and my guys are doing good for my guys. Good for them.
No, and this happens in the middle of just, very explicitly, like, giving big character emotional moments. This sets up the final versus the big bad action sequence, which, as we said, again, like, violence. Quite poignantly, the enemy in this movie isn't a bad guy. It is violence itself. It's shocking. I have to stop saying I'm shocked by this because like it is just quality filmmaking, but it's quality filmmaking because they actually said something. And to be fair, I think they were only allowed to say something because of the state of the Marvel franchise right now, where Marvel is finally giving its filmmakers a little more leeway.
I suspect also because Kevin Feige is paying much closer attention to another movie that's releasing this year.
Exactly. This came between the $400 million Red Hulk movie. I think that number keeps going up every time I say it, but it's fine. It was between the $400 million Red Hulk movie and, like you said, the movie that feels make or break, but isn't, because the next two movies are going to make $2 billion a piece. Next three, I guess, because there's going to be a Spider-Man movie in the middle of there. So, yeah. I guess that's Sony money.
Which also has not begun production.
Fine, it's fine. There'll be a black cat or something in it. Everyone shut up. Everyone will be fine.
The first time I saw the Fantastic Four trailer was before the Thunderbolts. Oh, wow. And I need to tell you, I still absolutely do not care about this movie whatsoever.
But what you don't realize is that at the end of the movie, their ship's going to enter our universe because it crashes into Avengers Tower or whatever the hell that.
Yeah, whatever. I've never cared about the Fantastic Four. I continue not to care about the Fantastic.
Well, this could be a good segue into our running down summer movies because that is one of the tentpoles of the summer.
Yeah,
sure.
If we want to start doing that,
nice unbearable image there, Eric.
Yes.
Because he's from the guy from the anyway. Never mind.
And he's tasting the sauce. Hey, it's pretty good sauce.
Yes, chef. I think he shouts. I think he actually maybe says yes, chef, or needs more salt, chef.
What a fucking film. But you know what? Summer's already begun. I'm going to say summer began with Sinners. It's fine. Summer can start in April. That's fine.
Summer's been the past month has been great. And it's like, there is this sense of void, like encroaching darkness on the horizon, which is really depressing.
Everything's going to be fine. Final Destination Bloodlines comes out this weekend. Darren, have you seen Final Destination Bloodlines? Darren, can you tell us if it's a film of the year contender?
No, it is not. Final Destination Blood. Sorry. I should put my
hits, no gags, no.
I need to let Marty down quickly. I need to be clean.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Needs to be quick and clean. Like death murdering some poor innocent teenager who had the tenacity to survive some horrible incident. I should put my hands up and say I'm kind of mixed on the Final Destination franchise. I think 1, 3, and 5 are great. Like, Final Destination 5 is inexplicably maybe the best movie in the franchise, which is really strange given they stopped making Final Destination movies after that. The thing with Bloodlines, which is interesting, is, first of all, it is very much more like 2 and 4, in that it veers much more into comedy, which is something that, some people like about the movie. I kind of bounce off those movies in part because of that. It's just not what I react to in a horror, and that's okay. The other thing about it, which is really interesting, is that, like, the Final Destination movies are so specifically a product of their cultural moment, where they are like specifically a particular kind of movie. They're a slasher movie where the guy with the knife is death itself, right? It is such an end of history, fin to cycle, like unipolar moment kind of idea, which is, what if we did a slasher movie and the ultimate slasher was death? But it is kind of steeped in this idea of like, well, life is tough and accidents happen and it's just bad luck. And when your number's up, tough luck, your number's up. There's no rhyme or reason to it. The thing about the Final Destination movies, which is interesting, is there's no transgression. The kids don't do anything wrong in those movies. They don't have, like, premarital sex or whatever. They don't go down to the cabin where the creepy old guy tells them not to go. They just have, like, the tenacity to survive an incident that should have brutally murdered them. And the movie's like, you don't get to do that. And I think my problem with Bloodlines is that Bloodlines is very clearly a movie that exists in the shadow of, like, the modern wave of franchise horror films. I'm thinking particularly of like the Scream reboot and the Halloween reboot. And I say that like quite liking David Gordon Green's 2018 Halloween, for example. I'm less fond of like Scream 5, but I do like it a bit. But like I think that this is very clearly trying to do for this franchise what those movies did for those franchises, which is to add a whole bunch of lore on top, create an everything's connected mythology, which is not what you want to be thinking about while watching a movie in which the slasher villain is death itself. The other thing is that it tries to heap on this weird maternal intergenerational trauma, which is very clearly ported over from Halloween, where the premise of this movie, very broadly, no spoilers, the opening 10 minutes of the movie and in all the trailers, is that in 1968, a woman survived a Final Destination-esque incident and then went on to start a family where she had kids, and those kids had kids, and she created a family. And all the survivors of that incident have, like, creative families. And every previous Final Destination movie has been death slowly working its way through the branches of the family trees of the people that it failed to kill in 1968, which is a very silly premise for a movie, because it just invites you to wonder, if all of the other deaths in the Final Destination movies were, like, messed with or premonitioned because death was, like, tidying up after itself, why were there premonitions in 1968? What caused 1968? You can't just pick that as an arbitrary starting point. But setting that, like,
that's at the height of kind of marijuana usage, so death was getting real high and a little forgetful. If you know,
that's that lady. Oh, I'll get it.
That's Death's beatnik era.
Well, I mean, like, my hot take on the Final Destination movies is that they're so 90s. They're like, what if Death was a Coen Brothers hitman and not Anton Chigurh? Where, like, Death is just constantly trying to clean up after its own mess. Like, the great thing about Final Destination 5, and this is a minor spoiler, is that the end of Final Destination 5 is the start of Final Destination. So, like, Death spends all of Final Destination 5 trying to kill these two kids, and it gets them on an airplane, and it's like, I know how to kill these two kids, now they're on an airplane. I'm gonna blow up the airplane. Except, of course, the kids escape from the airplane, and they're like, damn, now I've got a whole other mess to clean up. And it is very much like a Coen Brothers-esque, the bullet went through the wall, hit the wrong person, I shot him in the ass. It's John Travolta in, like, Pulp Fiction. It's like, I shot Marvin in the face. Death is, like, desperately trying to tidy everything up before the boss comes back from holidays, and is like, well, what's the deal? Anything interesting happen while I'm gone?
And you're saying you don't like it when it gets farcical.
It should be funny to Death, not to anybody else.
Also, let me tell you, you know what would be great? Heart attacks. Just give everyone heart attacks. Yeah, very easy way to solve
aneurysms. Yeah.
Tons of crazy ways. Yeah.
But again, this ties into that, like, 90s Coen Brothers hit where Death is overconfident. You watch those movies and Death is so overconfident in its own abilities. It's like, no. Plane crash. Log jam. The most surreal gym death you have ever seen. Like, Death,
I like the
is
roller coaster one. Roller coaster one's good.
Yeah, that's 3, which is again, like, I like 1, 3, and 5. But the problem with Bloodlines is, to get back to it, is that, like, it also, because it goes back and it retroactively creates a 1968 incident, it tries to retrofit, like, an original final girl, like Laurie Strode, for example, in Halloween 2018, like Sidney Campbell in the Scream reboot, where, like, we're introduced to this old woman who is living alone in a compound, like a survivalist style, like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018. But the reason why that worked in, like, Halloween 2018 wasn't because I was like, woo, old women living in survivalist compounds, that's the itch I need you to scratch. It's because I have an emotional attachment to Jamie Lee Curtis, future Oscar winner and Hollywood royalty, who has been doing this since the 1970s. And when you try to shortcut that by, like, basically saying, no, but we had somebody there from the 60s, I'm like, I don't buy it. I don't have any emotional investment. And you're just adding a bunch of lore that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And, like, the third and final problem with it is that, like Halloween 2018, like Scream, like so many of the modern, like, franchise requels, this is aspiring to be a blockbuster movie. This is very consciously trying to be a big movie. It's very consciously aiming to be the Final Destination movie for a new generation. It's not Final Destination 6, it's Final Destination Bloodlines. You don't have to have seen any of the previous Final Destination films. Trust me, you do not have to have seen. There's so much lore here. You do not have to. They will explain it to you. You will be able to follow it, I promise.
Oh, I don't want to.
But, like, the thing about the Final Destination movies is that their death sequences are grimy and kind of exploitation-y. And sometimes they're elaborate, but often they're very simple. Somebody gets, like, poked in an eye, or hit by a flying piece of metal, or thrown off a high ceiling onto a hook. Like, their death sequences are elaborate and Rube Goldberg, but they are not blockbuster-esque sequences. And the problem with Bloodlines is that in order to compete with what it sees as Halloween, and it sees as, like, where, you know, the recent Saw movies are, the recent Scream movies are, it has to become bigger in terms of scale and spectacle. You can tell that they spent a bit more money on this one. So the death sequences are more elaborate, and that means there are fewer of them, which means that you end up, like, killing multiple characters in single set pieces, which just to me feels like a cheat. I like if I'm watching a Final Destination movie and I got like 6 teenagers in front of me, I'm like, I'm gonna get at least 5 incredibly like ridiculous death sequences. Whereas here it feels like you'll get 2 really good ones, and then we'll deal with like the one left over very, very quickly. We promise you. It's a very interesting like example of how we've changed making horror movies and how that affects the rhythm of the kind of movies we make, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe it. I'm still gonna
no, you're gonna come 2 weeks from now and be like movie of the summer. Yeah.
Movie of the summer.
Yeah. So what? Which one? If was 5 your favorite of the ones you watched all of them, but did 5 end up being your favorite?
5, 1, 3, 2.
So what I'm saying is, if they make
4.
one more, it's an odd number. That's like it.
It's the reverse Star Trek. They have the reverse Star Trek effect. But no, like one is the original, one is the one with the plane sequence, right? And I know you love 2 with the log truck. The log truck in 2 is incredible. The problem is that there's 80 minutes of movie after the log truck in 2.
Not if you turn it off. It's like it's a tight 15 if you just turn it off after that.
Yeah. 3 has Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it and has, as you mentioned, the roller coaster sequence, which is incredible, and a number of other deaths. 5, I think, just has 5 is in 3D, which is the most we know exactly what this movie is and who the target audience is, and so it's full of like deaths that are full of pointy things that go through people. Like it is a movie that has been consciously designed to give you exactly what you think 3D should give you. Like you know, I think like that's why I like 1, 3, and 5. That's my argument for them.
There you go. Final Destination, the biggest movie this summer. I think it's going to be the biggest blockbuster of the summer, personally. We'll come back.
Proportionally, budget to box office, there's a decent chance.
Could be. Unless either Hurry Up Tomorrow or Friendship with both also come out this weekend. Theoretically, neither of them are playing at my theater, and I don't like what's going on here. Hurry Up Tomorrow is the low-budget horror movie starring The Weeknd and Jenna Ortega, where she and like The Weeknd plays The Weeknd, and Jenna Ortega is like stalks him and then miseries him seemingly. Like,
okay,
I don't know what's going on. I'm intrigued by it. Trailer is intriguing. And then Friendship is the A24 comedy starring Tim Robinson of I Think You Should Leave.
Yes.
And
Paul Rudd.
I've heard nothing but great things about. Very excited about this one. I've heard it's one of the funniest movies in years. If you are to that kind of speed of that comedy, which I am, that is my speed.
Yeah.
No, really, like it's a proper
couple episodes
comedy,
of I Think You Should Leave first, just to get on board with awkward comedy.
And then rewatch them because they are literally perfect.
Agreed.
My brother was so angry when I recommended that to him, and not because I didn't recommend it sooner.
I think there is a large group of normies who will watch that and hate it. But
absolutely. And you can just cut those people out of your life. So
agreed.
Easy. May 23rd, we have the aforementioned Lilo and Stitch live action remake, and then Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, which first impressions have started trickling out a little more lukewarm than I expected. From
seeing it tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. So we'll save our judgment calls. Apparently, it's like almost 3 hours long, which is great.
Yes,
just keep putting all the movie in there. It's fine.
It's 3 hours long, and apparently the first hour is just exposition because they're assuming that people may not have watched Dead Reckoning based on the box office performance of Dead Reckoning, is what I'm hearing.
So there was a lady in 1968 who avoided death.
Who took on a mission some said to be impossible.
Some said. Jack, what's your temperature on Mission Impossible series? I know Darren and I are big fans.
I'm a big fan of all that I've seen. I have missed many of them and then caught back up and enjoy. Like, I always think they are perfectly fine, if not very good, action spy movies. What's the John Woo one? Is that 2 or 3?
2.
That's 2. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love. I love 2 the way I say I love all the Rocky movies, which I do. Some of them I love for very different reasons.
I love all of my children. There's just some of them I love for different reasons. It's fine.
Some of them just take longer to explain why I love them.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite description of 2 is that it's the most expensive shaving commercial ever made, which just feels right.
Beautiful. Also, that is just Sebastian Stan. Eric just put up a picture of Sebastian Stan in the
Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible 2 is a wonderful example.
It's like, okay, I've met this girl. She's a cute brunette. She's very sweet. She's very gentle. I'm sure it's happening to be. It's insane how normal I am. The opening sequence of Mission Impossible 3 involves characters joking about how boring Tom Cruise is as he takes out the trash in his own house.
Right.
That obviously does not work. This is the time where
self-aware actor, like he's an enigma.
4, so 3 happens. He does the jumping on the couch sequence, the I will eat the placenta. There's the Tom Cruise law, which prevents people from buying ultrasound machines. Paramount dump him entirely. They announce they're going to let Jeremy Renner take over the Mission Impossible franchise. And then 4 begins with Tom Cruise in prison, locked away, forgotten. But he's only there because Tom Cruise wants to be there. And the thing about Mission Impossible 4 is it's now time for Tom Cruise just to walk out of movie jail because he's decided he doesn't want to be there anymore. And so much of Mission Impossible 4 is Tom Cruise explaining in excruciating detail to Jeremy Renner why Jeremy Renner will never be a movie star. It is an incredible movie to watch. The story is that Paramount wanted to replace him in Mission Impossible 4. They're going to get Renner to take over the franchise. But it's he brings in McQuarrie as his writer, and McQuarrie just basically cooks Renner. It's an incredible thing where Renner's supposed to be okay, so I've got a tragic backstory, and McQuarrie's yeah, you do, but I feel like your backstory needs to be related to Tom. I feel like your tragic backstory needs to be that you failed Tom. Okay, Renner's okay, fine, but I still get to kill a bad guy, and McQuarrie's see, I've been thinking about that, and people expect you to kill the bad guy because you're Jeremy Renner. You're so cool, right? People aren't going to be surprised when you kill a bad guy. So instead of you killing the bad guy, I'm going to have Simon